of a comic that never existed, that no one's ever seen. So because it's the lost images, it's constantly referring to something outside of your frame of reference, something outside of what you've never seen. So because of that, the details have to be right. The aging of the paper, and it has to give you the feel and the experience of having found some kind of treasure that you've never seen before. This is then our latest product that takes this book and that takes the same comic and examines the moment that the comic got written. This is the moment that it went from newspapers to paperbacks and t-shirts but it has to fit into the world that we've created. It has to look believable. So this is a comic that supposedly was printed in 1979. So it has to feel like, this is what I read on the bus on the way home from school with the colored edges and the advertising in the front, it's got an order form in the back, and it has to look familiar. The details have to be there. This is the time machine product that you talked about, and again, it's grounding product that it's important for us that we have, as you say, the bleed through from the character on the other side, that we have not everything is pristine, collectibles are never perfect, and it's those imperfections that give you the memories of the piece. So in this case, it's not the time machine, it's the user's manual from the time machine, really bringing that down to an everyday level. And then the last one, this talks about what you were mentioning as well. These actually aren't products at all. The first one is the holiday card that the artist who created the other would have sent out, and this is what our company sent out. The next on the right is the certificate of authenticity. Curio comes with a certificate of authenticity, which puts it in that world of collectors and collecting. So
because otherwise I wouldn't really trust them.
Well,
unless it has a certificate of authenticity, then I know it's really there.
Right, and you've got a real fake on your hand. There's a lot of fake fakes out there, not one. And then on the bottom, it talks about the packaging, that nostalgia, and this is something that I want to open up to the rest of them, that nostalgia for us seems to be not just what you see. I mean, you hear a song on the radio, this and that, but it's the rest of the senses, that you have to smell the paper, smelling the books. Your books that you showed today with everybody's wonderful art in it, that smells like an old book. The paper has to crinkle just the right way, the book has to flip the right way. That nostalgia is all about all of the rest of the senses. I mean, aside from taste, I suppose, there is a nostalgia food movement out there, but I don't know that I necessarily want to eat all of it. But it's the senses that have to get involved. So I would maybe then ask everybody what kinds of experiences do you have with getting different senses involved in nostalgia? Pete, your books in particular, I think, deal with not just the way the images look, but the sheer size of them. I mean, that's really important too. With your experience, you talked about Sunday mornings on the floor.
Yeah, people would say to me, that book is so big, I have nowhere to put it. So I suggested they slide it under the sofa, and every Sunday morning they pull it out and read 2 pages, and then close it and slide it back under the sofa. And then you really get the full experience. So the smell is important, and for me, when I look at these books, they're brand new. Of course, you can smell the ink from the press, but also in my mind, what I'm smelling is the dust mites in the carpet. Because if I open a book like that, it's so huge, it's difficult to read it anywhere on the floor. So it brings back those memories as well, and maybe something that was cooking on the stove on Sunday morning, because Sunday morning was when you read these comics. So, like you say, it brings back more than just the visual images. There's a lot of other things going on.
What I want to say is that what you do, Nemo is a perfect example. For me, it's not nostalgia. It's what it generates for me is a lament for what used to be. The first time I'm introduced to little Nemo, let's say I had never seen it before. It's great. It's not a nostalgia thing that I feel. Wow, this is good.
Right. And it was interesting, we were talking about this before, is the sort of crossover between something is nostalgia and something is great art. And when it withstands the test of time, it really does become art. But for many people, it's a combination of both. And it depends on what you were reading as a child. And when you're a kid, you don't know that something's great art. You just know that you like it.
Are there trends in nostalgia? Have either of you seen anything like that where things come in and out of style?
I've seen that this weekend more than ever. There's a guy named Paul Guinan and Huntington Bennett have a book out called Boiler.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and it's just terrific, and it's fake. And then they have a sequel, not a sequel, but I see a lot of stuff like that throughout, especially in independent small press area. So, I don't know, there's a trend coming.
Yeah, and Seth had a book like that too. Where I guess it was the Comics League or something. For a while you wonder, sorry?
It's called something like the Brotherhood of Canadian.
Yeah. And for a while you're reading this thing, and you wonder, not being Canadian, gosh, maybe this really does exist, until they get down to the Fortress of Solitude up in the Yukon thing or whatever, and you say, okay, I guess it's not really real. But there's a sense that there's this feeling of camaraderie with these artists that if this thing didn't exist, it certainly could have, or something like it could have existed. And the same thing with your material. If a time machine existed, this is what the manual would look like.
Well, maybe with less bags. I mean, one of the things that we've tried to do is that our products really need to feel real up to a certain point, and then it kind of needs to break down and say, okay, well, this is so absurd that it doesn't make any sense. I mean, there's an ice dispenser in the time machine. I mean, why would you want an ice dispenser? But technically, we figured out there is a reason for the ice dispenser in the time machine. We actually did the research with the physicist and made sure that all the pieces fit together. So,
where did you find a physicist to give you the details?
well, you know, there's specific time travel. Research. We did our footwork.
But the important point there is that we're not trying to fool anybody with our nostalgia, that we want everybody to play along with us and everybody to enjoy it. We don't want them to think it really was real. We want them to kind of discover it and unravel it.
I mean, when you were talking about one of our past compliments, and it was actually when we first released our first book in 2010, and it was somebody came over to the table and we tried to explain, and it was, you know, at that point we only had one book, and we were trying to explain what Curio code does, and people were just glancing over and saying, you guys are fools trying to even attempt trying to do something so complex. But the guy got it, and they said, oh yeah, I totally remember, my mom sold my lunchbox of Frank and his friend at the garage sale. I was so upset. And I'm like, yes, you understand what we're trying to go for. And, you know, it's those moments that you latch in and you fall into the story. I mean, a lot of the times I'll always say that what we're trying to do is we're trying to build movie props, but bring them into reality so you can actually be involved with these movie props. It's this alternative reality brought in, and it's the experience.
Extreme make-believe.
Yeah.